I played a bunch of cozy games recently, and honestly, there was a little bit of everything in there. Some games completely pulled me in and took over my brain for days, and some were way more chaotic than I expected. And a few of them genuinely surprised me in ways that I wasn't expecting at all. So, if you've been looking for something new to play, here are cozy games that actually stood out to me lately and why I think they're worth caring about. First is Vending Machine Co. And I'm not gonna lie, I mainly played this one because it was from the same team who made Ship Inc. and I really enjoyed that game. So I wanted to check out the next game they made. In this one, you run and manage your own vending machines, which honestly didn't sound like something I'd get invested in at all. But somehow I became completely determined to run the best vending machine business this town has ever seen. There's something really satisfying about slowly building everything up, figuring out what products sell best, organizing your machines, unlocking upgrades, and watching your little business grow over time. But I think the thing that really hooked me was seeing more and more of my vending machines slowly appear around the town. Because every time you make more money, you're able to reinvest it back into your business, unlock new locations, and expand even further. And that progression loop got pretty addictive after a while. It constantly feels like you're working towards something bigger instead of just repeating the same tasks over and over again. It scratched that same part of my brain that loves management games where you constantly are telling yourself, okay, just one more thing before completely getting logged in for another hour. And the gameplay itself is pretty simple, but I think that's exactly why it works so well. It never feels overwhelming or stressful, it just becomes relaxing and therapeutic once you get into the rhythm of it. If you like management games that are more low pressure but still satisfying to progress in, this one is honestly really easy to get hooked on. So for me personally, this one is definitely a buy. It's not super expensive, there is a surprising amount of charm to it, and it's the kind of game that's really easy to throw on, relax with, and just slowly chip away at it over time. Then there's InKONBINI, which ended up being way more emotional and meaningful than I originally expected. At first, I thought it was just going to be another cozy shop management game where you stock shelves and help customers. But the more that I played it, the more I started getting attached to the characters and the small moments happening around the store. There's something about the quiet atmosphere and the little conversations that just felt really touching and genuine in the game. Really touching and genuine. And honestly, I think that's what made this game stand out to me so much. The gameplay itself is pretty simple. You're organizing products, rearranging shelves, helping customers, ordering products, and slowly working through your shifts. But emotionally, it feels way more grounded than I expected. It feels like spending time somewhere real instead of just managing another cozy game shop. And I think that's why this one matched my mood so perfectly when I played it. It's calm, slower paced, and definitely more focused on the atmosphere, the story, and just the emotional connection than deep gameplay systems or the progression. I will say though, I probably recommend picking this one up on a sale mostly because I really wished there was more replayability once the story wrapped up. Because honestly, I didn't really want to stop playing. I wanted more customers to help, more people from the town to meet, and I really wanted to see more of the world outside of just the few characters that would come into the shop. I really enjoyed stocking the shelves, ordering products, doing the little gacha machine, and helping customers find what they needed. I just wanted more reasons to keep doing all of that. Like, if this game ever added some kind of endless mode where you could just continue running the store and meeting new people, I seriously could lose hours in it. Now, Hotel Galactic surprised me in a completely different way. At first, I mainly wanted to try it because the whole concept looked really cute and reminded me of those cozy hand-drawn animated movies. And honestly, the atmosphere really pulled me in. The world, the little characters, the music, the floating hotel in the sky, everything about it has a ton of charm. But the actual gameplay ended up being way more chaotic management style than I expected. You're running this floating space hotel while trying to keep your guests happy, repair rooms, craft furniture, manage resources, cook food, and basically stop everything from falling apart all at once. But weirdly, that's also what made the game fun, because once things started getting hectic, you get really invested into trying to keep the hotel running smoothly and making the place feel alive again. I got weirdly attached to rebuilding everything and just honestly wanted more guests to show up so I could keep expanding the hotel. And visually, this game is just really charming. Even when things felt a little overwhelming, the art style and the cozy atmosphere really pulled me back in. I will say though, I would probably recommend getting this one on a sale for now, mostly because you can definitely still feel some of the early access roughness. There were moments where I wish there was more customization freedom with building and room editing, and just some systems feel like they need a little bit more polish overall. But honestly, the foundation here is really strong. Now, if you enjoy the management heavy cozy games and don't mind a little bit of chaos, I definitely think this one is worth keeping an eye on. Outbound was one of the games that I had been looking forward to for some time now. The second I started customizing my camper van and driving through the world, I immediately understood the vibe this game was going for. And honestly, I think that this game works so well because because it taps into that dream a lot of people have of just disappearing into nature for a while and living a slow life. You build your van into this cozy little moving home, gather resources, craft, upgrades, grow food, and slowly becoming more self-sufficient while traveling around. But the actual feeling of the game is what really sold me. There were moments where I would just park near a forest while it was raining outside, reorganize my camper van for 10 minutes straight, and somehow I would just completely lose track of time. It started feeling less like I was trying to complete objectives and more like I was just existing in the world for a while. And honestly, those small quiet moments ended up becoming some of my favorite parts of the game. I also really loved slowly upgrading the van over time because it starts feeling less like a vehicle and more like your own tiny moving home. This is definitely one of those vibe games where the atmosphere is carrying a huge part of the game, and for me it worked pretty well. That said, I'd probably recommend picking this one up on a sale unless you already know that you love slower sandbox style survival games, because while I enjoyed the atmosphere and the overall concept of this one, there were definitely moments where the gameplay loop started feeling a little bit repetitive, especially when I was playing by myself. A lot of the progression eventually becomes gathering more resources, driving across the map, unlocking more upgrades, and repeating that cycle over and over again. And during some of the longer drives, the world could start to feel a little empty at times. But honestly, the second that I started playing this in multiplayer, the game became way more enjoyable for me. Driving around together, finding all the campsites, decorating the van, and just going on a little road trip adventure with your friends really made the world feel more alive. So if you love cozy exploration games, road trip vibes, camping aesthetics, and that slower progression focused sandbox style of game, I think this one is absolutely worth it, especially with your friends. Now, Duck Side of the Moon honestly ended up being one of the biggest surprises for me this month. You're literally a duck in space, running around helping weird little characters, doing random quests, collecting items, and just causing absolute chaos half of the time. And I think that the reason I got so hooked on it was because of the story and the quest-like structure. I am a huge fan of games with fetch quests because they always give me a really clear sense of direction and make me feel like I'm constantly have something to work towards. So even when I was just running errands for random characters, I still kept wanting to see what was going to happen and where the story was going. It has this really playful and quirky energy the entire time that made the game feel genuinely hard to put down. I think that's why it stood out to me so much. Not because it was super massive or super deep mechanically, but because it felt creative, weird, and just completely different from most games that I normally play. I mean, you're literally a duck in space. I haven't played anything quite like this one before in a while. This is one of the handful of games that I played recently that I got really close to completing, and I honestly could see myself going back and 100%ing it later. I would definitely say that this is a buy. It's lighthearted, funny, easy to get sucked into, and honestly just felt refreshing compared to a lot of the slower, more emotional, cozy games that I've been playing lately. Now, Thrifty Business completely activated the part of my brain that loves organizing things, and honestly, this game made me realize how dangerous management games are for me because I get so locked into trying to optimize everything. You're basically running a thrift store where you organize inventory, price items, decorate the shop, manage customers, and just slowly grow the business over time. But I think the thing that really hooked me was organizing all the shelves and just trying to make sure everything actually looked nice together and made sense. I would spend way too much time making sure all the same types of items were grouped together, adjusting the layouts, the different decor, and just slowly trying to make the store feel more organized and efficient. And weirdly enough, watching the store slowly come together ended up being one of the most satisfying parts of the whole game for me. This also became one of those games where I just kept telling myself, okay, one more thing over and over again before I accidentally played way longer than I meant to. The progression feels really satisfying too because you constantly feel like your little thrift store is improving little by little instead of just staying stagnant. I think people who love games like unpacking and other management heavy cozy games would probably get addicted to this one really fast. That said, if you're not someone who enjoys repetitive management loops or slower progression focused games, this one might not fully click for you. But for me personally, this one is definitely a buy. There's just something satisfying about slowly turning this tiny little thrift shop into something that actually feels organized, successful, and lived in. Then there's Forza Horizon 6, which honestly felt like a completely different kind of cozy game for me. I know racing games usually aren't included in the cozy game sphere, but there was something genuinely relaxing about just driving around these beautiful environments, with the music playing and no real pressure to do anything, especially after spending so much time in management games and just constantly trying to optimize everything. Sometimes I just completely ignore the races and just spend my time driving around looking at all the scenery instead. And honestly, I loved seeing all the cherry blossoms and all the different parts of Japan while driving around. There's something about cruising through the mountains, the city streets, and the quieter roads at sunset that just make the game feel really calm to me. It honestly started feeling less like a racing game and sometimes more like a little road trip simulator. That said, the game can also get really intense once you actually start doing the races and increasing the difficulty. So I like that it lets you choose what kind of mood that you want from it. You can either relax and just drive around exploring, or just lock in and start sweating during the races. And visually, this game is just unreal the entire time. For me personally, this is 100% a buy. There's so much content packed into it between the races, the collectibles, all the cars you can get, the upgrades, and the exploration. It constantly feels like there's something new for you to do. Even if you aren't normally into racing games, I honestly think this is one of those games that's easy to enjoy purely because of how immersive and relaxing the world is. Now for Bitter Harvest, and honestly this one might have had the most interesting concepts out of every game that I played lately, because instead of playing the usual new farmer, you basically start at the bottom as the town's garbage collector after somebody else steals the farm you were promised. And the whole game has this darker atmosphere built around resentment, gossip, manipulation, and social climbing underneath all the cozy farming mechanics, which immediately hooked me. I love when cozy games experiment with a slightly uncomfortable or different themes like that, because it just makes the world feel way more memorable. And for the first few hours, I really felt pulled into the mystery and tension underneath everything, but honestly, the more that I played, the more I started feeling that the game's ideas were stronger than the actual gameplay itself. Most days eventually started blending together into the same routine of farming, collecting trash, fishing, mining, crafting items, sleeping, and repeating everything again the next day. And I kept waiting for the mechanics, story choices, or just progression systems to really open up in a bigger way, but they never fully did, which honestly made the whole game feel a little frustrating because the concept itself was so interesting to me. I kept wanting the game to surprise me emotionally or mechanically in a bigger way, and it just never fully got there. So personally, I would probably say pick this one up on a sale or pass for now until some more updates come out. I do really think that there's something unique here, but if you're someone who mainly plays farming sims for deeper gameplay systems or replayability, this one probably won't hold your attention for very long. Now lastly, I played Froggy Hates Snow. This one's probably the biggest surprise for me this month. I really thought that this was going to be a cute little frog digging through snow kind of game, and then suddenly I'm there fighting for my life against these weird creatures and explosions happening everywhere. It somehow manages to feel cozy and stressful all at the same time. The digging itself is really satisfying, and once you start unlocking upgrades, uncovering new areas, and carving little paths through the snow, the gameplay loop gets really addictive. I really loved the game gives you both a cozy mode and a survival mode with different difficulty settings depending on what kind of gameplay you want. Personally, I ended up really enjoying the easy difficulty in survival mode because it gave me that satisfying roguelike challenge without feeling overly punishing or stressful. It felt challenging enough that I still had to think about my upgrades and prepare for the next enemy wave to show up, but not so difficult that it stopped being relaxing. And honestly, I got weirdly addicted to trying to optimize everything before each wave. I loved shoveling all the snow, figuring out the best upgrades to grab next, and just slowly setting myself up better and better each run. There were moments where I'd be peacefully digging around collecting resources, and then a couple minutes later I was panicking because everything around me is trying to kill me. It's definitely one of those more chaotic games that I played recently, but honestly, that unpredictability is exactly what made it so hard for me to stop playing. I think that's why this one stood out to me so much. It feels weird, creative, slightly unhinged, and completely different from most cozy games that I normally play. But for me personally, this one is definitely a buy, especially if you like cozy games that have a little bit of chaos and that survival tension. So overall, I honestly feel like I played a really good mix of games lately. Some were relaxing, some stressed me out in the best way possible, and some completely surprised me emotionally in ways that I was not expecting. And I think that's what I've been enjoying most lately, finding cozy games that all scratch completely different moods instead of everything starting to feel the same. If I had to pick my personal favorites though, I can't just pick one. I would probably say it is Duck Side of the Moon because of how lighthearted and charming it was. Thrifty Business because apparently I'm obsessed with organizing things, Forza Horizon 6 because I genuinely love just driving around and vibing in car games, and Froggy Hates Snow because it felt so different from what I normally play while still somehow being oddly cozy. But I'm really curious, what have you guys been playing lately? And if you tried any of these games already, let me know what you thought about them. And if there's anything you think that I should try next, definitely let me know in the comments. If this video helped you find something new to play, make sure to like and subscribe if you're not already, and until next time, so happy gaming.